catalytic converters. He took lead out of gasoline in 1974, and he was responsible for all that. And I've worked for Mobile Oil Corporation. In 1990, I went to work driving Trans Am cars for a small race team out in Georgia, and another team in Louisiana. I never think Louisiana. I married a woman from there, and I try to forget all about that. Right? It's all good now. But anyway, I've worked for these people and worked my way up driving cars. Won a championship in '90, and then went with no championships for a long time. Drove my heart out. Used all different kinds of oil, but got picked up by Morrison Motorsports in Albany, Georgia, to work with General Motors in designing the oil pans for the C5 Corvette. And I worked with Mobile hand in hand. We set the world speed record at 175.883 miles per hour for 24 hours straight. And after the bean counters got all done with us, they said, we're done with you, goodbye. They didn't give us any more opportunities. And now we're racing over here in Kyle, Texas, and in Houston. And last weekend, my partner that races a NASCAR truck got a hole in his radiator on the second lap of the race. He drove 40 laps with no water in it on Schaeffer's, pulled it into tech, 4th place finish. Never locked up. Took the motor apart the day before yesterday, pulled the bearings out of it, had 2 scored bearings. That's it. Nothing else wrong with that motor. We're going back together with just new bearings and new rings and putting new pistons in just because. But the outstanding wear protection and heat protection of this oil gives us that extra sense of, if we have to, we can push it, we can do it. We can run and not even look at the oil pressure gauge once you get so far in a race. I'm leading the points in Thunderstock right now. He's leading the points in the NASCAR trucks. I also run a NASCAR late model. I shoved it through the wall last week though, so now I'm running a NASCAR Pro Modified. We moved up a class because of the lack of ability to fix this car. It was really bad. We went right through the guardrail, blew it out, and it was pretty interesting. But the racing really can lead into a lot of stuff. I know y'all have a big deal with RPM over there, Richard Petty, but there's some grassroots, and I know Schaeffer's tries to sell the grassroots oil. It's American oil, and it's the best oil out there. When I put it in my tractors and bulldozers and trucks, your extended drain intervals and the oil sampling thing, well, I'm old school. I check for acid with my tongue, I check for dirt with my eyes, and I check for viscosity by looking how fast it drips. And we can do our own analysis of that. I don't want to suggest anybody telling anybody about that stuff, but it's how we do it, and I've extended the oil drain intervals on all my equipment by double. And I've had no failures. We had a radiator hose collapse last week on the intake of a 4440 cutting hay. The kid driving the tractor, because we just hire kids to drive these tractors, and they don't look at gauges. He drove it until it locked up, completely shut down. Called me up, said, tractor locked up, won't start, just ticking. I said, let it sit, I'll come pick you up. By the time I got there, it was about an hour later. Went over there, started it up, and it had oil pressure and had water. Everything was fine. And I said, is it locked up? What locked up? So it was pegged out. It really was hot. And it melted some stuff on the motor. It was so hot. Checked the oil was fine. Went back to the shop with it. We cut the filter. No metal in it. Changed the oil on it because it really got hot. I don't know how hot, but it was probably over 400 degrees or maybe 500. But no problem with it. We've already run it another 100 acres cutting, and the machine is fine. But I've worked with Carroll Shelby. We had Indy cars that we were going to race in the 90s, and Carroll Shelby, the late Carroll Shelby, he really was a nice man, but he ended up selling some stuff and spending some money that he wasn't supposed to spend, and we kind of lost our IndyCar team. So drug up, retired for 10 years, and went back to racing, and now I have an 8-year-old son that's running Schaeffer's out there at the racetrack going 80 miles an hour. And I try to promote it, and with all of you, I like the opportunity to represent you and sell some Schaeffers for you at these racetracks and stuff, because we're going all over the country. We're going to race 2 modifieds next year everywhere. And I think people underestimate who they're going to run into at the racetrack. Just like this, the man that I gave that oil to, right there, purchasing agent for City of Austin. How big is that? That's a good deal. And you know, you just never know. And what did it cost you? It didn't cost you anything. You charged me for those 6 cases.
I'll make it up to you.
And I'm doing this for free. I don't get anything free out of Schaeffer's. Every once in a while, they'll slide me a case of oil out the back door. And I gotta beg them to get decals to put on the cars. But I'm so proud of the dang oil in my crankcase that I get the decals. I had 2 of them made myself.
You did.
And they're carried on every car I drive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah, but I'll call you all the time.
We're going to give you some stickers.
Thank you very much for having me out here, and you know, just keep selling that oil, man. It's some good stuff.
Hold the stickers up.
Hold the stickers up. Yeah. No, the key here is look at what has transpired from the racing, you know, from the racing program. So there's a perfect opportunity, you know, moving into business just from being involved.